Welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So today we're going to be covering Season 3, Episode 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks, The Least Dangerous Game. So I took some notes, so bear with me. And for those of you who haven't watched this episode, please understand that there's going to be spoilers involved in this review. So please stop the video, go and watch the episode, come on back and pick up where you left off. But in this particular episode, we open with the lower decks crew surrounding a game. And the game is called the Battlettes Binook. Alright, I know my Cleon is a little rusty, but it's the Battlettes Binook, which is basically the Battlettes Coward. Alright, and it is a Ferengi game and is voiced and animated by none other than the OG General Martok J.G. Hertzler himself, basically. Now, in this episode, there are two plots that's going on, and I'll basically cover each plot separately. Now, basically, the Deltonians have asked Starfleet to come and give them a hand with their orbital lift. It's malfunctioning. It's not working anymore. Some people are stranded in the upper half, in the upper portion of it. So the ship basically goes and picks up those people off the orbital lift, and an away team is sent. Now, the away team that's sent is going to be, with this first plot, is going to be based around Mariner, Mariner, Rutherford, Phillips, who we haven't seen in a minute, and Ransom, Commander Ransom. Now, what's going on in this is that um, this civilization, we start off with, it's a lot of Star Trek tropes that's in this particular episode. And I don't know how they got an orbital lift, but they're they seem like a primitive species as far as technology and as far as culture goes. All right, but their culture is something like basically like a super rise or a rise on steroids or something like that. When they first said that they greet every visitor with a kiss, I was thinking, oh, okay, so they have a basic society of, say, like the French. But then they said with tongue, and I was like, oh, that's kind of nasty, right? So what's going on is that um, Mariner and what's his name, Mariner and Ransom, they decide to fix the orbital station, while the two engineers, Phillips and Rutherford, go down to the planet and conduct the diplomatic talks. All right. Now, the thing is that through this particular plot, Mariner is basically second guessing, but still trying to stay within Mariner's uh, professionalism that she's been shown to have. She's questioning, hey man, why are you doing this way? Why aren't the engineers up here doing this? You're calling them and stuff like that. We're making mistakes. We don't really know what's going on. We're having to watch how-to videos, and they're calling us talking about some. Well, at first talking about some. Well, we're having a good time. This is a great culture, but inevitably the drama picks up in this particular plot where Rutherford and Phillips try to enter this temple, but they're dressed inappropriately. You're supposed to enter this temple with your navel exposed, all right? But so they get basically arrested and they're going to be sacrificed. Now the thing is that this particular episode, I mean, this particular plot reminded me of first the Joe versus the volcano. But since I'm a Trekkie and I have to keep it in Trek canon, it reminded me of that episode where Picard in season 1 had to save Wesley from basically that civilization where he basically made a small infraction on that civilization and was basically sentenced. And I think the episode was called Justice from, I think, season 1. But it reminded me of that. Now, it also reminded me when they started talking about how in civilizations like this, they played more on the tropes of it's what did they say? It's a telepathic baby AI volcano, right? And that pretty much covered so much of Star Trek tropes. Things from like the original series, The Apple, things from things like that from the original series, The Apple, or from like I was saying with Justice. So the thing about this situation is that as it continues to escalate, Mariner decides to take it upon herself to be like, okay, you know what? They need me down there to save them, and that's what I'm gonna do. So she sneaks off, and she gets of course, the Starfleet dive suits, and we get the whole sequence of them diving down. And I swear it was a play on Star Trek, the motion picture, where they was diving down and stop that orbital drill. But she gets a call over the intercom from Ransom, basically saying, hey, um, I've been riding you and everything like that, and I've been trying to be hard on you for everything like that because I wanted to test you and see if you would disobey my orders and everything and go off half cocked on your own. Now, when she hears this, of course, she stops and she decides to try to hurry back up because his idea basically is the idea that she had, but she don't want him to know that she disobeyed the orders and disappoint him, right? And the climb that's going back up this tower, man. She got all these steps, and then she ends up coming to this wall of rock climbing wall and everything like that. And it's a trope back to the design drama that they just throw into Star Trek, into science fiction in situations like that. Think of Galaxy Quest, when they did a perfect take on that when they was trying to get to that time stop device in engineering. Now, the thing is that they tried to pull up their shirts and all of that to alleviate the issue, but I think it was Phillips who had an Audi, and I totally agree that they should have been sacrificed if they have an Audi. Nah, I'm joking, everybody, but that's funny for them to even have put in there. But the thing is that there was a learning, something to take from what happened in this particular episode, and they end up meeting the baby telepath, the AI, and the volcano and everybody like that. And Ransom ends up using his abilities as a commander and a diplomat to dispel the situation. How does he do it? I'm gonna tell you guys, man, because it's hilarious. He takes off his shirt and flexes his body, and all of the guys of the planet are impressed and everything like that. So they hear him out, and he ends up diffusing the situation. Now, in the second plot that we got going on, it's more of a take on episodes from the Next Generation, like Tapestry. All right, so basically, Bormer finds out that a friend of his has gotten promoted to captain, and he's feeling a certain kind of way because he's still an ensign. All right, and Tendi ends up telling him, "Hey, man, it's because you don't really do anything. You're playing. You don't take any bold steps. You're not adventurous. Okay, so it was basically the same thing that Counselor Troy and Riker had told Blue Shirt Picard in the Tapestry episode and everything like that. So now Mariner decides, Boimler decides, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say yes to everything that's asked. And we go into the pros and cons of having a mentality like that, because we go into Chief, who we haven't seen in a while, the Saxis or something like that, the Bajoran security chief. But we finally get to see him again, and he invites him to, of course, the Starfleet racquetball. And they go, he sings in the choir, and he ends up meeting Chief Lundy. Well, not meeting Chief Lundy, but being approached by Chief Lundy to be part of an oil painting, sculpt painting type deal, all right, that he got going on. And I swear that Chief Lundy, when he came out the shadows and his whole demeanor, it reminded me totally of Garrick from Deep Space Nine. Like his whole thing reminded me of Deep Space Nine. Now, the he ends up running in. No, I wanted to mention that in the conversation that they were having earlier in the show, and when I say they, the lower decks personnel sitting around the Backlash Coward game, he mentioned that you don't want to be the type to get hit by a spear, and and stuff like that. Now, that is a direct reference. Well, when I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, is this foreshadowing, or is he referencing the events that happened in, say, the original series episode Galileo 7, right? So, but he ends up running across this guy named, what's his name, Crax or something like that. Now, Cratch or whatever. Now he ends up running across Cratch. Borman does, and Cratch is basically like the Star Trek Predator type. All right, so he's kind of dressed up to kind of mimic the Predator. All right, and he's like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to be prey in my hunt. And Tendy's like, well, he asked Tendy first, and Tendy's like, nah, no, thank you. And instead of Boimer taking the hint, he's like, yeah, I said I wasn't gonna say no to anything. I'm a little apprehensive about it. I'm not gonna ask no questions, but yeah, I'll do it. And look, once he accepted that hunt, man, let's just all agree that Crotch, whatever his name is, his little walk back, his little sneak off. Oh, that classic. That was the classic right there. That's probably gonna become a meme one day. Now, his voice, Cratch's voice, I was trying to find who the cast members of this particular episode was because his voice sounded so familiar. And for anybody who can find out or knows, please put it in the comments because I would love to know the voice, the voice actor who played Crash in this episode. Now, let's talk about the hunt. So Boimer ends up trying to approach Crash and everything while he's in mid makeup and everything, getting ready for the hunt, and tries to defuse and bag up out the situation. Crash explains to him that it's three types of prey, and that which one is Boimer gonna choose. Now, Boimer asks him, "Hey man, when does the hunt start?" And of course, Crash like, "Yo, the hunt starts now." And he proceeds to start chasing them up and down the corridors, all through sections and everything, like throwing weapons, deadly weapons. Well, we'll get into that later. But throwing what we think is deadly weapons, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, Boimer is, man, he's Spider-Man, dodging everything, going past crew members. And the thing is, when I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, why hasn't anybody notified security? Nobody's called this in. Nobody has reported. Nobody says anything. He ends up running across Captain Freeman, and he tells her the situation as quickly as he could. In which case, she's like, "Oh well, you accepted this, so the prime directive applies." And I was thinking to myself, if any one of the other captains in Star Trek were in this situation, and one of their crew members were being hunted by another person on the ship. I don't even have to guess. Remember what happened when species 8472 was being hunted on Voyager by the Hirogen, and the steps that Captain Janeway went to protect the not only 8472 but the Hirogen itself. So I already kind of know what the principles of Starfleet is. So at that moment, her response, first of all, after I got through laughing at her response by saying security cancel that. Now, her response on that, I was a little perplexed for a moment, right? But then I was thinking to myself, I wonder if because of her friendship with Crash, because she has one with him, right? He's teaching her a recipe. I wonder if she knows something either about this hunt or about Crash's species culture that either we as viewers don't know or Boimer definitely doesn't know. Now, eventually, Boimer runs into a cargo bay or back into the room where this game, Bathless Big Coward was, and he proceeds to get a motivational speech from none other than, first of all, let me tell you something, side note. Klingons always consider battle a party. Like, they the most, I've always said this, if I was to go into battle in the Star Trek universe with anybody, it's gonna be the Klingons. A lot of people say, "Well, why not Starfleet?" Look, Starfleet's kind of boring when it comes to uh, motivating you to give your life or defend the planet or defend a ship. Klingons are always singing when they're not fighting. They drunk. Actually, they're probably fighting better when they're drunk. Klingons are just jovial when it comes to warfare. And, that's kind of weird to say, but I didn't mean the killing, but the act of warfare is like a party to them. So to get a motivational speech from not only a Klingon, but General Martok Missing Eye and all himself, right? Who wouldn't that motivate? Like I was motivated for Boyman when I was watching that particular part, right? And then he proceeds, Boyman, he says, you know what? Forget this, man. I'm finna go and fight. I'm finna go and I'm gonna be the predator, right? Now, the thing is this. Did you guys notice, man? He got equipped up, man. He put on his prey Native American battle paint, and he decided to go out and immediately get speared in the left shoulder. Oh man, that's hilarious. Now, thing is, Crash ends up coming to him and explains, "Hey man, this is a non-lethal hunt. It used to be lethal, but we've evolved past that to whereas it's basically a catch and release type scenario with the prey, and we just get a selfie and everything, and we post it, and and stuff like that. So Boyman ends up saying, okay, passing out. Oh, but before he passes out, he gets the recognition of this guy and his species, of course, right? And he ends up passing out, man, and of course, the guy ends up taking an even better selfie. Now, the thing about this episode, so we're going to the lessons learned. Now, I think that this episode, first of all, was great because not only did it have humor, suspense, action, but it had drama, and most importantly, it had character growth and development. All right. Um, in the situation of Boimer, well, in the situation of Mariner, we'll take her first because she was the first plot. In the situation of Mariner, I think she learned a valuable lesson of not always flying off half cocked, to have trust and be and respect in her superiors, that they are superiors of hers because they have more experience and they can make a better judgment than she could. All right, so I like that she is starting on the road towards that development because in season 1 and 2, she'll just fly off the handle, and there were little to no consequences for her actions. All right. Now, as far as Boimer goes, I think it was a nice development from him as far as being so acquiescent. Well, from going from being so boring and so mundane and so passive to elevating that to a state of acquiescence, which or being gullible, which he found wasn't the best thing for him as well. So he learned how to be more bold, just like he stated at the end of the episode, to boldly go. So in that lesson, Boimer has learned confidence and boldness within himself. All right. So what do you got? And there was one other thing I wanted to address because this is the thing, language. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, it's just yeah, well, yeah. But it's two reasons why I think that the use of profane language in this isn't appropriate. And, oh man, I sound isn't canon. We'll put it that way. And one, it is a kids show. It's an animated show geared towards kids or young adults, I would say, which I guess would be teenagers. All right. So in watching this, like say for instance, I grew up watching the original series with my dad as a kid. If they were to have been using that kind of language, honestly, if they was using that kind of language, my dad still had let me watch. But there would have been parents who would have taken their kids off of watching Star Trek because of the use of that around their kids. People are touchy like that. All right. And the second reason is that it's Star Trek. They are supposed to be, yeah, there's times where they've used profanity in classic Trek, yeah, but it is very rare, few and in between, and it was only used as an example or as an emphasis. Okay, so it wasn't used at all as normal conversation. They had better words to put in their place. Okay, so um that's all I had to say about this episode. Overall, like I said, this episode was great. It had it all. I highly recommend it. Tell me what you guys think. I hope this review didn't go too long. And as always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, ring the bell for any future content. And peace. Recycle and say the whales. You guys be cool.